Good morning, students. Today I am going to discuss a new chapter, that's chapter 2. The name of the chapter is Biological Classification from your class 11 biology syllabus. So already we have discussed chapter 1, the living world, chapter 3, the plant kingdom, and chapter 7, the structural organization in animals. I hope already you have gone through all the videos which I have uploaded. So please, who have not gone through yet, please go through as early as possible, because all those videos will help you a lot for better understanding of this chapter. So already we have completed chapter 1, the living world. From that chapter we came to know about our living world, about different kinds of the organisms, about different kinds of the taxonomic aids, taxonomic categories, all those things. In this chapter we will get to know the kingdom system, the classification system, how many types of classifications are there, and their description with examples. This chapter is very interesting and important chapters in your class 11 biology syllabus. So let's start the today's class. Today we are going to discuss the part 1 portion of biological classification. So first thing is the kingdoms. So I hope already all of you heard this term, this kingdom. All of you heard this term, this kingdom. So what is the meaning of this kingdom? What is the meaning of this kingdom? So these kingdoms are the highest taxonomic groups of the living beings. I think all of you know this thing, like the plant kingdom, like the animal kingdom, because actually in our surroundings environment only two living things are there, the plants and animals. Okay, so these kingdoms are the highest taxonomic groups of the living beings. So these organisms are actually divisible into 2 to 5 kingdoms. The major criteria which is used for these kingdom systems are: the first one is the mode of nutrition, second one is the presence or absence of locomotion, next thing is the complexity of organisms, and the cell structure. Okay, so this is actually the basis of this classification. This is actually the basis of this classification. So each and everything has their own history. So here one history is also there in the biological classification also. So the earliest classification was done by Aristotle. He used simple morphological characters to classify the plant into trees, shrubs, and herbs. So by actually seeing the morphological characteristics means the outer characteristics. By seeing the outer characteristics, actually scientist Aristotle used simple morphological characters to classify the plants into trees, shrubs, and herbs. He also divided animals into two groups, those who possessed red blood and those who did not. Okay, so those who actually possesses red blood and those who did not. So based on these characteristics, actually he divided the animals group also. So next is the Carolus Linnaeus classified living world into two kingdoms, the Plantae and the Animalia. I am repeating again. Carolus Linnaeus classified the living world into two kingdoms, the Plantae and the Animalia. So this system was used till very recently, that this system does not distinguish between the eukaryotic and prokaryotic, unicellular and multicellular, photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. So suppose two kingdom is there, we all know this thing, that the plant and the animal. But within the plants there are different kinds of the organisms are there. Okay, photosynthetic organism, non-photosynthetic organism. So this photosynthetic organism is also belongs to plants. This non-photosynthetic organism is also belongs to plants. Okay, and animals also, this unicellular and multicellular. This unicellular organism is also belongs to animal. This multicellular organism is also belongs to animal. Okay, the eukaryotic organism is also belongs to animal. This prokaryotic organism is also belongs to animals. So this is actually the basis of this classification system. This is actually the basis of this classification system that time. But there was actually some confusion is also there. So next, actually in the later time, the scientists discovered this 5 kingdoms classification. Scientists actually discovered this 5 kingdom classification system. Okay, so this is the basic thing. This is the basics. Actually, this is the basis of the classification. So when actually Carolus Linnaeus in the year of 1735 actually this when he discovered these two only system, this Animalia and Plantae, so there are so many types of confusion was also there. So that's why in the later time, in the year of the 1969 actually scientist, one taxonomist, one American taxonomist was there, actually R.H. Whitaker. He proposed this 5 kingdom classification system, okay, to remove all those, to solve all those confusions. So it's actually the mode of classification where living beings have been distributed into 5 kingdoms. I am repeating again, it is actually one mode of classification system where living beings have been distributed into 5 kingdoms. So the classification was proposed by American taxonomist R.H. Whitaker in the year of 1969. Okay, so it includes viruses from living beings. Okay, microscopic to macroscopic, all the organisms are actually included in this kingdom system. So 5 kingdom classification, the scientist R.H. Whitaker in the year of 1969, he proposed a 5 kingdom classification is there. The kingdoms actually defined by him were named the Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So total 5 kingdom is there. Just look at the structure, the Monera, Protista, actually the first one is the Monera, second Protista, third one Fungi, fourth one Plantae and the last one is the Animalia. So based on these different kinds of the things, this actually Whitaker, scientist Whitaker used 5 criteria for delimiting the 5 kingdoms, like the cell structure, like the cell body, like the body organization, like the mode of nutrition, that like the phylogenetic relationships. So based on several criteria, based on several actually the characteristics, this kingdom actually is divided into 5 types. Okay, the Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. The main criteria for classification which is used by him include cell structure, thallus organization. Thallus organization means the body organization. Thallus organization means the body organization. Mode of nutrition, reproduction and the phylogenetic relationship. So this is actually the base of the 5 kingdom classification. So all prokaryotic organisms were grouped together under kingdom Monera and unicellular eukaryotic organisms were placed actually kingdom Protista. So all the prokaryotic organism, prokaryotic means the who do not have any proper nucleus, developed nucleus. So they are called the prokaryotic organism. So all the, this is the undeveloped nucleus. Okay, so they are grouped together under kingdom Monera. Okay, and the unicellular eukaryotic organism, unicellular means the only one celled organism, but their nucleus is developed, but their cellular structure only one cell organism is there. They are placed in kingdom Protista. So kingdom Protista has brought together like the Chlamydomonas, like the Chlorella with Paramecium and Amoeba. Okay, and who has lax cell wall, all those things. So it has put together organisms which in earlier classification were placed in the different kingdoms. Okay, so this is actually the basis of this classification. This is actually the basis of this 5 kingdom classification. So the living world, actually this living world is classified into total 5 kingdom: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and the Animalia. So 5 kingdoms is there: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and the Animalia. Okay, but based on which criteria? Based on the complexity of cell structure, complexity of body structure, modes of nutrition and ecological lifestyles, and the reproduction and phylogenetic relationship. Okay, so this is actually the basis of the classification system. This is actually the basis of this classification system. So here one thing actually you should know, that what is the advantages of five kingdom classification, what is the needs of this classification system. So actually it brings out the phylogeny in the living world, okay, because these all are interconnected to each other, these all are actually interconnected to each other. So actually it provides the phylogenetic relationship of the living world. This system is actually based on the levels of organizations and modes of nutrition. So that's why it provides the sufficient data for the evolution also. Okay, and what is the disadvantage of this classification system? So each and everything has one advantage as well as disadvantage too. So what is the disadvantage? This kingdom Protista is highly heterogeneous group with several lines of the evolution, and it's actually very difficult to make distinction of unicellular and multicellular forms of algae. Okay, so red and brown algae are not related to other organism of the pink plantae. So there are actually several advantages also there, and the several disadvantages are also there. Okay, so next thing is actually we will going to discuss the kingdom Monera. Next slide contains the kingdom Pronera. So this kingdom Monera actually this Monera word is coming from the Greek word monos. And the meaning of this word is single. So this kingdom Monera is the kingdom of all prokaryotes. So this kingdom was actually proposed by Allen in the year of 1960. And it contains the most primitive and ancient organisms which is developed from the earliest living stock or progenote. Okay, so what is the main characteristics of this kingdom Monera? So they have several types of characteristics are also there. Like the first one is the bacteria mainly comprises of the kingdom Monera. Okay, so Monera is the kingdom of the all prokaryotes. So bacteria mainly comprises of the kingdom Monera. So they are the most abundant microorganism because all the bacteria actually belongs to this kingdom Monera. Different kinds of the bacteria is there according to their shape and size. Different kinds of the names are also there, like the cocci, like the bacilli, like the flagellum, like the spirilla, like the vibrio. Okay, so they live in extreme habitats such as hot springs, deserts, snow, and the deep oceans, and many of them actually live in all another organisms as the parasites. So bacteria are grouped under 4 categories based on their shape. The spherical coccus, okay, just look at this structure. This is the spherical coccus. The rod-shaped bacillus, this is the rod-shaped bacillus. The comma-shaped vibrio, this comma-shaped vibrio. So one bacteria, name of the bacteria is Vibrio cholerae. Okay, the pathogen for the cholera disease. So its actually shape is comma shape, so that's why it's also called the Vibrio cholerae. Okay, and the spiral spirillum, this is the spiral shaped structure, spirillum is there. So some of the bacteria are autotrophic, that is they synthesize their own food from inorganic substrates. They may be photosynthetic, autotrophic, or photosynthetic autotrophic or chemosynthetic autotrophic. Okay, so the vast majority of bacteria actually are heterotrophs, that is they do not synthesize their own food but depend on other organisms or on dead organic matter for food. So next thing is actually this Monera, this Monera is actually the kingdom of the all prokaryotes, so it's therefore also called the prokaryota. Okay, so these monerans occur in almost all types of habitats including the snow, salt pans, sulfur springs, all those things. So that's why I am saying that they live in extreme habitats such as the hot springs, such as the deserts, such as the snow, such as the deep oceans, all those things. And that they have different kinds of the size, they have different kinds of the shape, all those things are also there. Next thing, this Monera is actually classified into two types. This Monera is actually classified into two types, the Archaebacteria and the Eubacteria. I am repeating again, this based on the size, based on the shape, all those things, actually based on all those things, this Monera kingdom is classified into two types, the Archaebacteria and the Eubacteria. Okay. So now I am coming to the Archaebacteria. Now I am going to discuss this Archaebacteria. So they are the most ancient and the heterogeneous group of bacteria. Please keep it in your mind that these Archaebacteria, that these archae also, these bacteria are actually the most ancient animal. These are the most ancient animals and heterogeneous groups also of bacteria which originates from the different kinds of the organism, okay. So that's why is actually this Archaebacteria is actually the most ancient organisms. This is actually the most ancient organism in our world. So what is the main characteristics? So what is the main characteristics of this Archaebacteria? So before starting these characteristics, you should know one thing, that these bacteria actually live in the most harsh habitats such as the extreme salty areas, hot springs and marshy areas also. Okay, so which actually Archaebacteria is actually present in the extreme salty areas, they are called the halophiles. Which Archaebacteria present in hot springs, they are called the thermoacidophiles, and which Archaebacteria present in marshy areas, they are called the methanogens. So all those terms are important for your MCQ examination. So that's why go through it properly. Okay, what is the meaning of the methanogens, what is the meaning of the thermoacidophiles, what is the meaning of the halophiles, all those things. So these Archaebacteria differ from other bacteria in having a different cell wall structure, and this feature is responsible for their survival in extreme conditions. Okay, I am repeating again. These Archaebacteria actually differ from other bacteria in having a different cell wall structure, and this feature is responsible for their survival in extreme conditions. So these methanogens are present in the gut of several ruminant animals such as cows and buffaloes, and they are responsible for the production of methane from the dung of these animals. So this is the basic thing of the Archaebacteria. So you can say several characteristics are actually there in the Archaebacteria. The cell wall is devoid of this peptoglycan and the cellulose. Okay. Second, instead of bilayer lipids from a monolayer in the cell membrane. Third, in cell membrane, the fatty acids are attached to the glycerol by the ether bonds. Okay, and core histones are actually occur. DNA replication, transcription, and translation resemble eukaryotes more than the prokaryotes. Okay, so there are several characteristics are also there in the Archaebacteria group. Next thing is the Eubacteria. So next contains the Eubacteria. So what is the meaning of this Eubacteria? What is the basic characteristics of this Eubacteria? That the main characteristics of this Eubacteria, these are the thousands of different Eubacteria or true bacteria is there. This Archaebacteria is the ancient bacteria, but these Eubacteria are the true bacteria. Okay, so they are characterized by the presence of a rigid cell wall, and if motile, a flagellum is also there. Okay, so some of these organisms can fix atmospheric nitrogen in specialized cells called the heterocyst. So all those things are very important for your MCQ question. I am repeating again and again. When I have actually taught this chapter in a live class, that time also I have told all of you in repeated times, and here also I am repeating again and again that these kinds of the things, these kinds of the questions are very important for your MCQ examination. Like example is the nostoc, like Anabaena, all those things. So they are actually perform in the nitrogen fixation in our environment. So they play a great role in recycling nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron and the sulfur. Okay, so heterotrophic bacteria are the most abundant in nature. The majority are important decomposers also. Thus many of them have significant impact on human affairs. They are helpful in making curd from milk, production of antibiotics, fixing nitrogen in legumes, roots, etc. So some are pathogens causing damage to human beings, crops, farm animals and pets. Cholera, typhoid, tetanus, citrus, canker are well-known diseases caused by the different bacteria. So I think you have heard these three disease name: cholera, typhoid and tetanus. Okay, so the name of the pathogen for cholera is Vibrio cholerae. The name of the pathogen of typhoid is Salmonella typhi. So all those things I think you have heard so many times. The bacteria growth mainly by fission. Sometimes under unfavorable conditions they produce spores. So they also reproduce by a sort of sexual reproduction by adapting a primitive type of the DNA transfer from one bacterium to the other. So this is the basic things of the eubacteria. Okay, just look at this structure. These mycoplasma are organisms that completely lack a cell wall. Okay, but they are actually the smallest living cells known and can survive without oxygen. Please keep it in your mind. I am highlighting this also. Okay, because this is very important. All those things are very important. This mycoplasma is the organism, the smallest organism in our world, in our environment, and they are the smallest living cells known and can survive without oxygen. So many mycoplasma are pathogenic in animals and plants also. Okay. So with this slide actually I have completed the Monera portion. Okay. In our next video we will discuss the kingdom Protista. Okay. And the other kingdom also. So from this video actually we came to know about the classification system. Okay, the types of classification on the basis of classification and the description of this kingdom Monera and the proper example. Okay, so actually I am saying one thing, that please go through each and every videos properly. Okay, I am repeating again and again myself that please go through each and every video properly, because these kinds of video will help you a lot for better understanding, for easy memorization. Okay, and please do check each and every video. Okay, and if any queries are there just ask me immediately in my number. Thank you. Bye.